Josh Grizzard. 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 Josh Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard. Josh Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard. Josh Grizzard.
And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hey there, Buccaneers Nation. Welcome to another exciting episode of RBLR Bucks, your favorite off-season oasis in the world of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Well, folks, I'm Musab, your co-host, and I want to start off by giving you a huge shout-out to all of you for tuning in. Your support means the world to us, especially during this off-season lull. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Musab, I'm getting the off-season blues. Well, let me tell you something. You're wrong, because here at RBLR Bucks, there is no off-season blues. We're not about to let the off-season slow us down. No. We're here to keep the Buccaneers fire burning bright. We're here to keep you entertained and updated on everything off-season related, from coach moves to, potential draft picks we'll talk about, later this off-season. We got you covered, folks. And I'll tell you this, we got a spicy episode cooked for you tonight. And I will say this, a lot of feelings will be let out. And that's just how it is sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Especially with what's happened this past week with our organization. A lot of interesting moves happening. So we're not holding back any punches, and we got a little special trio action going on here tonight. So sit tight, because this episode is about to be hotter than a Tampa Bay summer, my friends. Well, before we dive into the football frenzy, I want to introduce you to the dynamic duo who's going to be guiding you through this off-season adventure tonight. First up, we got a new guy in town. That's right, we got a new sheriff in town. His name is Tyler Vasallo. Tyler, it's an honor to have you. Welcome to RBLR Bucks. Yeah, how you doing, man? What's the good word?
I'm living the life.
Oh, there you go.
There we
Okay,
go.
I thought the injury bug. I thought the injury bug gave you a little bit of a sting right there, but
The turf
you
monster
recovered.
got me. The turf
Yeah.
monster got me.
You had your little podcast EpiPen.
There we go. I'm living the life. I'm happy to be here.
Right on, right on. Likewise, man. Also love the jersey, by the way.
Thank you.
And of course, what is this show without the final puzzle piece to this iconic trio, ladies and gentlemen? Steering the helm, as usual, the one and only Mr. Carter Brantley. Carter, what's the good word?
Oh man, another week, another week closer to the next regular season. It feels like a year away, but we'll get there. We'll get there some point. Might be a while, but yeah, I mean, like you said, there was a lot that happened this past week. It was kind of one of those weeks where it just felt like every day there was something new. So a lot went on, a lot of feelings being expressed by a lot of Bucks fans, but we'll get into all that. Like Musab said, really appreciate y'all tuning in. Really appreciate Tyler hopping on. He's the new guy, but he's been around and he's been writing for us, and so you've seen his stuff on our page. Which, speaking of, head to our page and give us a follow if you want to see more of Tyler's stuff and listen to more of our shenanigans. It's at RBLR Bucks. Definitely check us out there. But yeah, it was a week. I don't know if you'd call it exciting. I don't know if you'd call it good, but it was something. It was something. Liam Cohen is not he's not with the Bucks anymore. He's the head coach of the Jags, in case you're living under a rock. It happened, of course, right as soon as we recorded our celebratory Liam Cohen is staying episode, because that's just, Murphy's Law. That's how the world works. So I wanted to start there because, obviously some other stuff happened, but this is where we start because Liam Cohen, offensive coordinator, no longer the offensive coordinator. The timeline has been a bit foggy. So I kind of wanted to walk us through at least the best that we can surmise, because obviously no one's really going to know, but except for Liam Cohen and the Bucks. But apparently he secretly met with the Jaguars last Thursday. Cohen reached out to Bowles at around 5:50. Before all this, they couldn't get in touch with him, the Bucks and Todd Bowles and all that stuff. But it was kind of weird. Cohen hadn't been communicative all day, but apparently he took a little secret interview Thursday night. The Bucks had offered that 3-year deal on Monday that would have made him the highest paid coordinator in NFL history, but only if Cohen didn't take that second interview. So that's what made it so secretive and everything. So then the Jaguars fired their general manager, Balky, or whatever the heck his name is. He's gone. So then Cohen's like, oh, LOL. And then he goes back. And so they gave him some Ben Johnson money, as it's been reported, which is around $13 million per season. There's been some weird stuff, like he had a sick kid or something. I won't even touch that. But Patrick Graham had to have like a sham interview, basically, on Friday, I believe, just because the Jags had already made up their mind. We saw it with the Patriots as well. They have to satisfy the Rooney Rule. Just really crappy way to treat people. And Liam Cohen participated in that. So I don't know. It was really weird. I want to start with you, Musab. What are your thoughts on his behavior? Is it slimy, or do you think just, hey, it's business, like, shit happens? Is that what your thoughts are? How are you feeling about it?
I mean, it's very slimy if you ask me. Unless you're Liam Cohen, I feel like it's understandable. I feel like it's kind of like, he should have just taken it at first, and it's just at the end of the day, I mean, this is a job, you know what I'm saying? So my only thing is, that's fine if that's what he wants to do. It's just that it just leaves a really bad impression on everyone else in the league. Because now imagine if things don't go well in Jacksonville. I can't imagine anyone really wanting to take him now at this point when he's doing these kind of shady things. Who knows? Maybe there's other things that, we'll never know. But, and then to also kind of, throw his kid under the bus and kind of use that as an excuse. And then his wife was also on Twitter or some social media, like trying to make us feel bad, like you trying to gaslight us that like your husband is using your son to do these shady, slimy things. So, I don't know. It's just very disappointing. I feel like at the end of the day, you can't. It's hard to turn down a head coaching position like that, of course, but um, it's just very ugly the way he did it. So that's really all I can say. And I feel like many Buccaneers fans, um, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I don't wish him the best. I'll say that.
No, I feel you. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. It was a very awkward situation. I don't really know what to make of all of it. The main thing that I like to focus on, just because the kid stuff, like you said, if that's truly how it was going down, that's gross. Like, he was weird. I don't even know. I'd like to think that he wouldn't do that, but at the same time, Rick Stroud seemed to kind of confirm that that's what he was doing. So I don't even know. But what we can say definitively is that he really screwed over Patrick Graham, like made him, just because Robert Saleh was thinking about coming down for a second interview, or maybe coming back down to interview again for this position. And then he heard the Cohen stuff and he's like, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to waste my time. So yeah, poor Patrick Graham. He had to go back to the Raiders and be their defensive coordinator. Like, that sucks. And it's also just insulting. It's just an insulting waste of everyone's time. And Cohen played a big part in it. And to say that the Jaguars are such a well-run organization that, they know what they're doing, like, no, they have not shown that. Their owner has not done a good job of building a competitive product for the most part during his tenure. So, yeah, the idea that they are so good at what they do that they don't need to interview everyone and take everyone seriously is just very silly to me. But, we saw it with the Patriots too. And with the Mike Vrabel stuff, they brought in Byron Leftwich to interview, which he did not coach in 2024. So that was also a massive joke. But it's the NFL. These teams clearly think they know what they're doing, and then they'll go out and be one of the worst teams in football in consecutive years. But that's neither here nor there. Tyler, what? I'm sorry, I was rambling there, but what are your thoughts on this situation?
No,
maybe you're a bit lighter on Cohen, or maybe you're just as harsh as the rest of us.
I mean, I can't. If I was in the same position, I can't say I wouldn't take the money.
Right, of course.
$60 million guaranteed.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, I would. It would be hard to. It would be hard to say no to that. But it's not like. It's not like that money was necessarily going to come off the table in a couple years after he's done with the Bucs. But there is now precedent for that. The Texans' offensive coordinator got fired this season as well after interviewing for several head coaching positions last year. Bobby Slowick. And he was fired, and he's pretty much out of a job right now. So I can't blame him for taking the money. I will say, promises made need to be promises kept. We're all grown men. Like, we understand that.
Yeah,
like,
we're all adults here.
Your words should be final. We shouldn't
sure.
be flip-flopping the way that he did. But this isn't the first time he's done this.
Yeah, right.
You can look at his record. He was the head coach at Kentucky twice, but in
the offensive coordinator, I think, in Kentucky.
Yeah, something like that. In two different seasons, almost
really
back to back, but not really. He went from the Rams to Kentucky, back to the Rams, back to Kentucky.
Yeah, just gross.
He's done that at other stops in his career, so he's just a flip-flopper, which is really unfortunate for a guy that is relatively innovative at the NFL level. He's a proficient play caller, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not going to wish him luck, though. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because that's still not cool. Like,
right.
I get it. Go get your money, but, like, come on, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's life-changing money.
Absolutely.
And it's a life-changing opportunity, because if things go well, like, that's huge.
Right. And the other thing is, I don't think that the Bucs organization wants that to go well over there either. Obviously,
right?
They denied two of his coordinator requests. They requested to interview two of the Bucs offensive line coaches, both the offensive line and the assistant offensive line coach.
Right.
And that was, I would say, probably their second or third best position group on the field overall on the season.
Absolutely.
And Definitely. Those were two guys that one of those guys he brought with him from his Kentucky stop, from his staff over there. Mm-hmm. And the other guy they brought in this season as well. And that offensive line was a lot better this year than they were last year.
Absolutely.
So that's important as well, because the Bucs don't have to allow him to interview those guys. So why let him walk out of the building?
Yeah, yeah, and for people saying like going crazy, like oh, it's retribution, like payback, blah blah blah. Like no, this is very common practice. Like
Yeah.
this is just it's getting attention because of the whole drama and everything. But NFL teams do this all the time. Like if it's not a promotion, they can very rightfully just be like, no, we'd rather keep him, and like that's cool. Like if it's a promotion, like yeah, that's screwed up. Like if he was asking one of these offensive line coaches to be an offensive coordinator or something, if there's a promotion or something like that in the works, then yeah, the Bucks shouldn't be able to do that, and I don't think they are. I think it's illegal or like against the rules or whatever. Like not illegal. I don't want to be dramatic, but I think the NFL has rules set in place to prevent that. I could be wrong about that, but I think if it's a promotion involved, I think that teams have to allow coaches to go be interviewed. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. Like you said, it was just the way that he went about it. That was really
and the Rooney Rule thing. That's gross. That's nasty.
Yeah.
That's nasty work.
Mhm.
And the Jaguars, like you mentioned, they're not the only team that did that. The
Of course.
Patriots interviewed Byron Leftwich, who hasn't had a job in any sport in 2 years.
Yeah.
The Seahawks also interviewed Byron Leftwich. Like, what are we doing, guys?
Yeah, it was very silly. Very silly.
Just completely unserious.
Yeah, and like we're not talking about Super Bowl winning, perennially like amazing organizations here. Like no NFL team is well run enough to like just, totally ignore candidates. So
Right.
yeah, I'm with you. It was really gross. It was really, really, I mean, not disappointing because you kind of expect it, or maybe not surprising because you kind of expect it, but still disappointing nonetheless.
Let's also remember this is the Jaguars.
For sure. Yeah, I mean it's Jacksonville.
The
They're
little brothers from the north.
right, and they're kind of the butt of most NFL jokes. Like the Bucks used to be that, and now it's kind of the Jaguars. So yeah, it's pretty tough. But looking back, obviously there was a lot of talk about Bowles being fired, and maybe they bring in Cohen for the head coaching gig. Now I'm incredibly happy that never happens. I don't know how y'all feel. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. Musab, we'll start with you, man. What does your perception of that kind of change? Like, are you kind of like, oh man, kind of dodged a bullet there, or maybe are you still kind of frustrated that the Bucks didn't just give Cohen the job?
No, I mean, I really didn't have any kind of real reason, in my opinion, to really be like, oh, no, we got to fire Bowles. And then, so for that reason, I wasn't like, oh, let's promote Liam Cohen. I mean, I think Liam Cohen would have done a great job. It's just kind of a really kind of weird situation because now, we have Bowles. Thankfully, I think it was meant to be, and now Liam Cohen is on another organization. How I feel about it, I think it was just meant to be. I feel like as long as we're keeping the guys that want to stay here overall, I think we've done that. I don't know. It's just this whole situation is just so sticky. In my opinion, I feel like this was kind of a stupid decision. First of all, going to the Jaguars. I mean, I know you never want to turn down a head coaching kind of position, of course, either. And then obviously the money was there too. But I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like he could have probably just stayed one more year. Maybe could have strengthened his resume even a little bit more. It's like it kind of reminds me of those guys, who play 1 year in the college and then they go off to the NBA. And then some guys, they stay another year or two to kind of get more experience or whatever. Yeah. And then they, turn out to have a much kind of draft, much better draft ranking. So same thing.
Yeah, I feel you. I mean, there's definitely the idea that he could have stuck around and gotten the Bucks job. He could have, stuck around and Bowles might have stepped aside, just been like, hey, I'm getting up there in years. I'm done. And understandable. Like, go, go hang out on the beach. Like, hey, enjoy retirement. Like, it's awesome. So there's definitely a world where that could have happened. He could have also, like the Bengals, my goodness, they are in a free fall right now. And if they have another rough year, they could just get Zach Taylor as a scapegoat. I know that's kind of putting your chips on the Bengals being bad again, which is kind of tough. But yeah, there were definitely opportunities next season as well for Liam Cohen had he stuck around and just, served another year as offensive coordinator. But like Tyler said earlier, there's also guys like, oh goodness, I'm going to mispronounce his name. Slowick. Good gracious. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Slowick.
Honestly, I don't know if that's right either. Might be
That's okay. That's all right. Oh man, I honestly just couldn't remember his name, and then I was like, "Oh, it's Slow something." So, anyways, yeah, it's you get fired after a year. Or Byron Leftwich, he's kind of a good example of that because he was kind of a hot name. Like, oh, is this guy going to be a head coach? And then who, man, he he fell off a cliff. So yeah, it's tough out there. It's definitely tough to kind of time it right, and you're gambling on yourself and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know, but Tyler, how about you, man? Are you feeling happy, relieved that the Bucks didn't give a guy that would engage in this kind of behavior the head coaching gig?
I'm not the hugest Todd Bowles fan, but I'm willing to give him a third or fourth chance, whichever one we're on now.
Right.
He, obviously he didn't inherit the best roster coming in.
For sure.
And they had all those voidable years on the tax,
Yeah,
on the cap. I mean, and so it's kind of been a rebuild, if you want to call it that,
right.
Over the last couple of years, and they've gotten better year over year. I would say the defense has kind of regressed, but if you're going to spend that much money on the offense, you would hope it turns out good, and it has. We had, I would say, probably the fourth or fifth best offense in the entire league.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
so you kind of have to take your lumps with that if you don't want to pay defensive players.
Right.
So we haven't been able to retain talent. We haven't been able to. A lot of our guys are aging out. Jason Pierre-Paul, he's gone. Shaq Barrett's nowhere near what he used to be. Levante David even took a step backwards this season.
Massive.
And they let Carlton Davis go in the offseason. So
right. Yeah.
Honestly, it is what it is with the defense. I think this is their floor. I think this is about as bad as they can be with Todd Bowles.
Right.
It's only up from here.
Yeah, that's the good news. It can't get much worse.
I hope.
Right. We're hoping that they don't turn into the 2010 Saints when they were breaking records for most points allowed or whatever.
Or like the 2018 Buccaneers with Mike Smith as the defensive coordinator. Good Lord.
Yeah, just some brutal times. Brutal times indeed. But yeah, I mean, I like what you mentioned about the fact that the investment in the defensive side of the ball just hasn't been as massive as it has been on offense. Because like you said, they brought back Mike Evans, they have Tristan Wirfs there, brought in Baker Mayfield and gave him, rightfully so, a big payday. Big payday, that's kind of an over exaggeration, but they paid him, and rightfully so. But it costs money to keep good talent around, and they did that on the offensive side of the ball, and they haven't really looked outside for external options defensively. So you're going to see some regression, like you said, with Carlton Davis, letting him walk. As injury prone as he was, if they would have kept him around, had Zion McCollum as their third cornerback, then that turns what was a massive weakness into the secondary's okay. It's not amazing, but it would have at least been a little bit better off. So yeah, it's a tough line. It's a tough balance to walk. Plus, if they don't trade Carlton Davis, then maybe they don't get Jalen McMillan. Maybe they
exactly.
So
or
it's
Tyke Smith potentially.
Yeah, exactly. Either J-Mac or Tyke would have not been in a Bucs uniform. So yeah, I mean, it's just stuff. It's just the nature of being in a salary cap league, and it's the nature of dealing with the voidable years that they had in the Brady era.
And I'll say it's not for nothing. It's not like they haven't tried to fill those holes on the defensive side of the ball.
Right. Yeah.
They drafted an edge rusher in the second round. He's got a lot of people that he's working behind right now. Tryon, Diaby. They brought in Randy Gregory, who was like their big offseason splash. And
right.
Oh, he was a splash, all right.
If you can call it that.
Maybe
then,
more like a
he doesn't show up to a single OTA or off-season practice at all, and ends up getting cut. Yeah. And Jamel Dean, he gets paid a ton of money, and kind of looks like a traffic cone out there sometimes.
Yeah, he can be frustrating to watch.
And then Antoine Winfield, our All-Pro safety, misses 8 games this year.
Yeah, so and when he played, he was not good.
That's true. I'm willing to make the excuses for Todd Bowles for this year at least.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's discouraging because you think, oh, they have a defensive minded head coach, like their defense should be a strong suit, and it's like, oh wow, this defense sucks, and it's like, but it's hard to separate those two things sometimes.
Yeah, his scheme necessitates outside rushers and guys who can play zones in the flats, and they don't have any of that.
Yeah, they don't have guys who can play zones in any standard or any area of the
exactly.
field.
It's the softest zone I've ever seen.
Right, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely tough. But if you're looking to upgrade your wardrobe, if you're thinking, oh man, it's kind of the 2024 Bucks defense in there right now. If you're looking at your closet, looking at your clothes, and you're trying to make it more like the 2024 Bucks offense, then definitely head to shop.rplersports.com. We've got some really great gear for you. Anything Tampa Bay sports related, we've got you covered. And I'll give you a little promo code Cannon, CANNONS. Type it in and get 10% off your entire order. Definitely head there. We'd really appreciate it. And you'll probably appreciate it too, because then you'll be upgrading your little clothes. Feeling good because you look good, you feel good, and all that type of thing. So maybe that's what the Bucs defense needs. Just a wardrobe upgrade. Head to RBLR, head to shop.rblrsports.com if you're listening, Bucs defenders. Anyways, but
as long as they don't wear those alarm clock jerseys, don't. Bring
yes,
100%. Don't bring those back.
The alarm clock jerseys were tough, but that's all right. So the opposite side of the coin, obviously, we spent the first half of the episode talking about Liam Cohen leaving, and that left a vacancy. And the Bucs didn't. They took their time. I love the way the Bucs go about these things. They've done this the past 2 years now. They seem to do a really good job of just interviewing as many people as possible. They are really creative with it. They brought in a lot of candidates, and they settled on Josh Grizzard. That's how I'm pronouncing it. Please forgive me, Josh, if that's mispronouncing your name. But I saw a tweet from Greg Allman. It was kind of appropriate because he pronounced it like R, like a Bucks, or like a pirate, excuse me. But anyways, he's their head coach or their offensive coordinator. He was their passing game coordinator last year and the year before, I believe. So it was kind of an in-house promotion, which I got to admit, I'm kind of a fan of. The Bucs passing game has been really good the past 2 years, and obviously Dave Canales and Liam Cohen were a big part of that. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, et cetera, et cetera. But it's kind of nice to have just more continuity. Oh goodness, I'm butchering that name too, or that word as well. But it's opting for the same voices, and I think that's a good thing. But what do y'all think? Were y'all hoping they'd have gone outside for a candidate, or are you satisfied that it was an in-house promotion? Tyler, I'll start with you, man. What were your thoughts on this offensive coordinator hire?
This is actually one of the guys I covered in my offseason coordinator preview.
We'll read it.
I'm okay with this hire. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
He's somewhat a prodigy, kind of considered that way at least. He was a two-sport athlete in high school. He played quarterback and safety while he played football on his high school team. Carried a 4.75 GPA as a valedictorian.
Oh my.
Yeah, and then he ended up going to Yale, where he played for 3 seasons. I don't know if he logged any statistics. I didn't really bother to check because it's not really relevant.
Yeah.
And then he opted to spend his 4th season as a student assistant on the team, and then after he graduated, he went to Duke as an assistant coach. And then he joined Adam Gase in Miami, and he stuck around there for the Adam Gase regime. And then he stuck around during Brian Flores' tenure. And then he was there for Mike McDaniels, and then he joined us this past offseason after Dave Canales left for Carolina. And so he's made not too many stops, honestly, and he's only 34 years old. It's important to note that when he was in Miami for the last 2 years that he was there, it was 2022 and 2023. It was the 2 best years of Tua Tagovailoa's career. It was last season when he was there. Tyreek Hill had MVP votes.
Yeah.
With 1,700 yards. Tua led the league in passing.
Right.
So this is a guy who knows his stuff.
Sure.
I think that this is honestly, I wouldn't call it a home run hire, but I'd call it a stand-up double.
Okay, stand-up double. I like it.
The other notable thing is Jenna Lane from ESPN covers the Bucs pointed out on Blue Sky that he was also in charge of third down for the Bucs, 3rd and 4th down. They converted on 51.1% of their third downs this season, which led the league. There are only 5 teams since 2014, at least, because I didn't go back any further.
Right.
There are only 5 teams that have had a conversion rate over 50%, and it's us, the Chiefs twice, and the Bills twice. So that's something to lean on for sure.
Yeah. Well, I got to tell you, man. You said it was a stand-up double, but man, you're making it sound like a home run hire. I don't know.
I just don't want to get out in front of myself. I don't.
Right. No, I get you. I get you. No, I like it. I like it too. It just seems like just Baker's had so much instability with his play callers.
He's going to set a record for most offensive coordinators in a career.
Yeah, insane. And he's 31 or something. He's not even that old. So it's just it's crazy to think about the the constant change that Baker's had to deal with. So this can be a little bit more stability for him. And the Bucks offense was a huge strength last year, and like you mentioned, the third down stuff, it's just been really good. So the fact that you can just bring in someone that's familiar with the system, that's not going to, he'll probably bring some fresh ideas, some new stuff into the mix, but he's also going to be like, oh, hey, what we did last year was really successful. Let's also keep doing that. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what he can do. But Musab, how about you, man? Was the idea that there was maybe an outside candidate kind of in the back of your mind, because they've done that the past two times? Canales and Cohen were both outside guys. They did not promote within, and they were both super successful. So maybe you're thinking, oh man, maybe third time's a charm there. But what were your thoughts on this hire?
I mean, yeah, the first immediate thought is, first of all, whoever it ended up being, they got big shoes to fill based on what Canales and, Cohen have done for our offense. Now, obviously, I mean, I have to summarize. I'll probably just say, I mean, it was a good hire for sure. I mean, obviously, within the system, within the organization. And yeah, I mean, as Tyler said it already, I mean, he has, different kinds of experience. I mean, he's been, loved by other, coaching staff as well. Guys wanted to keep him, especially on the Dolphins. I mean, he started with Flores, and then, Mike McDaniel still wanted to run it back with him as well. So, I mean, the good thing is, as much as, his credentials can, be promising or whatever, there's always some kind of unknowns with these younger guys.
For sure.
So the big thing is familiarity. He's been in the system before. Most likely, he's probably just going to be, doing the same kind of thing, which was obviously good. Again, Tyler mentioned 51.1%. I mean, that's nuts. You would have never thought. I would have never thought. I would have never thought. I would read about our Buccaneers third down conversion being so damn good. But here we are.
Right.
That's what happens.
Okay.
But no, in summary, I have to say, it's just really, it's going to be a really kind of big leap forward to kind of be, someone who had kind of no experience when it comes to, play calling, to now take up this large task. So we'll see how that goes. But I mean, listen, there's always a supporting cast. It's not only just a John Grizzard show either. So I feel like it's going to be a whole team effort. But hey, you know what? This is how it is with this is how it is in life. You know what I'm saying? At one point, the young guy is going to get his shot. This is his shot, and let's see how he does.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, I think that's the big, I don't want to call it a red flag, maybe a beige flag for him, is that I don't know that, like you mentioned, Tyler, I don't think he's been an offensive coordinator anywhere. Like he hasn't served as the head honcho, the guy that's calling the plays, doing all that stuff. And that can be a bit, it's a bit much. So the idea that he might struggle a little bit, he'll grow through some growing pains. That's something to monitor for sure. But like you said, Musab, everyone's got to start somewhere. Maybe theoretically you don't start your first play calling gig just at the NFL, but at the same time, like, hey, the young kind of offensive play calling gurus are all younger guys. This is kind of the new trend. So hopefully the Bucks found their next OC. Maybe Grizzard will stick around more than a year. That's a big hope as well, for sure.
We've turned into a kingmaker for offensive coordinators.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's great because it means that they're successful, and it means that the Bucks offense is running like a well-oiled machine, which is true. But at the same time, on the flip side of that, like, it's constant turnover, which it's not great. It's not super fun to have to deal with a new offensive scheme, I'm sure, every year. But were there any guys that, Tyler, you'll probably be able to speak to this the most because you wrote that fantastic article. Were there any guys that were some near misses in your mind? Like, oh man, the Bucks might have been smart to hire him too. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, while I was looking at it, there were three guys that really stuck out to me as kind of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start with Mike LaFleur is the offensive coordinator currently for the Rams.
Oh, okay.
He previously worked as an offensive coordinator for the New York Jets during those terrible Zach Wilson years.
Right.
I will say that those are kind of a stain on his record, but he's been good just about everywhere else. He's a longtime Shanahan guy.
Mm-hmm.
He worked with the Atlanta Falcons during those Matt Ryan MVP seasons, and then he got his chance in New York, and he was stuck with Zach Wilson. But he made Garrett Wilson the Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Brees Hall very well could have been Rookie of the Year that season if he had stayed healthy.
For sure.
And so that didn't really work out for him. But and then he kind of married the two coaching trees by getting with McVay. And that is also where the Bucs went for their last coordinator hire with Cohen. So that's kind of where I thought they might be headed. You might also recognize the name because he's the younger brother of Matt LaFleur, who's currently coach of the Packers. So that was kind of my number one pick. I would say that Grant Udinski from the Minnesota Vikings is the other guy that I was a pretty big fan of. He's Kevin O'Connell's right-hand man up there in Minnesota. And they did interview him, but obviously they didn't pick him. That offense has been pretty fun to watch. And obviously, they can make it work with just about anybody with Sam Darnold, almost leading the league in passing. And then the third guy was a kind of an under-the-radar pick. He was the passing game coordinator, I believe, last season for the Rams. Nate Scheelhaase. He was a long-time Iowa State coordinator, for 8 years before going to the NFL this past season. It was his first job in the NFL. And he worked on a staff that helped develop Brees Hall. Again, funny enough, Brees Hall, as well as Alan Lazard, David Montgomery, some NFL names. Even though Brock Purdy as well. Forgot about that guy.
Right.
And so
Mr. Irrelevant.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Irrelevant.
Right, exactly. Not necessarily successful at the collegiate level, but those four guys I'd say are pretty successful at the NFL level.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
those would have been my three outside of the inside hires.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Scheelhaase was definitely a name that popped up for me just because, like you said, he was another McVay guy. And my goodness, it seems like the marriage of the Bucs and the Rams, the McVay tree and the Shanahan tree, like you said.
He was like a film coordinator here as his very first job in the NFL under John Gruden.
Oh man,
I can't believe we missed on that. How do you not keep that guy in house?
Right. Yeah. Oh man, yeah, that's tough. But I mean, shoot, yeah, it's just there's so many talented offensive minds out there. It's really hard to just pick one. It's tough. So the Bucs have done it really well the past 2 years. They've clearly hit. So if we're talking about another new offensive coordinator next year, hopefully it's a good thing. Maybe Grizzard can come in and get a head coaching job himself, which obviously that's not perfectly ideal, but that means that he did a great job, and that means the Bucs probably made the playoffs again. So, it's interesting. It's definitely going to be a storyline to monitor. But Musab, were there any guys in your head that Tyler just did such a great job? There weren't really any others in my mind, but were there any guys that we maybe missed that the Bucs brought in?
No, I don't think so. I feel like it's always interesting to see, because I feel like there's levels to this, when it comes to coordinator, then offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, then head coach. So
right,
the only thing I have to say is, I mean, at this point, it's more about kind of promoting, the right guy, to the next level. Because I mean, how many guys kind of it's how many guys at another team on another team are an offensive coordinator, and then they say, oh hey, I want to just kind of just stay on the same level, but just go to another team. That's kind of just going to another company because of so-called culture,
Right.
But otherwise, I mean, it's always you always kind of want you always want to take the next step up. So these kind of things make sense, whether it was Grizzard or I'm already forgetting his name, Shield. Just any of these guys. So any of them, it's always the opportunity to take the big step forward. So it does make me happy to see these kind of things happen too. It's always nice to see the new guy get his shot. Because sometimes some of these other dudes who have been offensive coordinator for 10, 15 years are a little too arrogant, and they just think that they got all this experience under their belt. They're just going to run the show, and it's going to be my way or the highway. So
right, and their ideas can get stale.
I know Zach was hoping for the home run Chip Kelly hire here, but
oh gosh, yeah, yeah. I mean, that would have been funny and fun.
It would have been funny, especially 13 years after he stood us up and left us at the altar in 2012.
Turned
Funny
out to be a
enough,
blessing.
this isn't the first time, like, Liam Cohen leaving us at the altar. Not the first time. This has happened, like,
Oh.
3 different times. Bill Parcells did it twice.
Yep.
So, it's not entirely surprising now that I really think about it.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's tough, it's definitely tough to be left, like you said, at the altar, or always the bridesmaid, never the bride, or whatever the whatever the sayings
Always
are.
an angel, never a god. Yeah.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I definitely dug what you said about just being rewarding guys for patience, right? We saw like that's kind of or rewarding guys for hard work and just promoting from within. It can be a really good thing, because then it's kind of a good motivator for the rest of the staff. Hey, like, keep doing your thing, keep doing well, and then as you promote, if you continue to do well, then you'll just take his place, and it's just it's kind of a good vibes. So I'm with you. And Chip Kelly, I mean, he would have been interesting. I don't know if he would have been good, but yeah, it's
Yet
just
to be
kind of one of
seen.
those things.
It made Will Howard look like a Heisman candidate in the playoffs. So.
Right, yeah. He definitely had some talent with Jeremiah
sure.
Smith, like
Oh my
probably the
God.
best wide receiver in football. Like, it's
he's gonna go first overall.
yeah,
That guy's
oh,
ridiculous.
man.
He's not
First
even
of all,
getting
that's
drafted this
old.
year.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go out and say it. I think he's that good.
Wow, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, he is really disgustingly good, but yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to monitor, especially as he continues to progress at Ohio State. But yeah, he's ridiculous. So it would have been interesting to see if Chip Kelly could have translated that success to a little bit more of an even playing field. Because all due respect to Mike Evans is amazing, Chris Godwin's amazing, but they're just the talent disparity between Jeremiah Smith and whoever's covering him. It's a lot wider.
Yeah.
But it's all good. Anyways, there were some championship games that happened this past weekend. Obviously, some notable stuff that went down with Kansas City. They got some calls here or there, depending on who you ask. So they obviously took down the Bills in another close affair. Josh Allen, kind of the another one, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. In Philadelphia, my goodness, they trounced Washington. That wasn't a game. Like, that was just Philadelphia just kind of being like,
That was a whooping.
Yeah, Washington's a fun story, but yeah, we won the division for a reason. Like, that was kind of what Philly was saying. Jalen Hurts looked great, the best he's looked, I think, all year, really. Saquon was Saquon, not really much else to talk about there. And their defense made Jaden Daniels' life uncomfortable, which is not easy. I think Bucs fans can speak to that because Jaden Daniels really stinking good. And they made him look kind of average. So what were your thoughts on, were you kind of surprised that Washington didn't put up more of a fight, Musab? I mean, this was kind of I was expecting it to be a little bit more of a dogfight, like you'd say, but man, it was nothing like that.
No, to be honest, I wasn't surprised. I feel like, maybe people were thinking, oh, the Lions, if the Commanders can, take down the Lions, then it should be a good match against the Eagles. But I mean, the Lions defense and the Eagles defense, that's like comparing the ground to the sky. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, could not be a wider gap. Yeah.
I mean, for that reason, that's one reason. And on top of that, Saquon Barkley just absolutely just turned it up immediately from the start of the game. Yeah. So it was just too much to handle. It kind of reminds you of those kind of Cinderella stories, during March Madness.
Right.
A team makes it like to the Sweet 16, and then they finally play like a top tier team, and then they get annihilated. Yeah, they play a real team. No more kind of game-winning buzzer beaters or whatever. So, yeah, it's kind of just like that. I mean, I do want to give credit where it's due to the Commanders for going this far, but at the end of the day, I mean, the best go to the Super Bowl, and the Eagles showed the whole kind of NFC why they're going.
Yeah. I mean, it was unfortunately my preseason pick. It was my pre-playoff pick, Kansas City and Philly. It just felt inevitable. The Philadelphia had done such an amazing job building this team. Through the draft, through the token free agent signing here and there, and it just all came together this year. Unsurprisingly, they're in my opinion, they have the most talented roster in football. So it's just not surprising to see them do this. But Tyler, what were your thoughts, man? Were you like Musab? You saw this coming, or maybe you were kind of like, wow, like this is really awful.
I watched that first Commanders drive, and I started to get some PTSD style war flag.
Right.
It was 9 minutes to open the game.
Oh goodness, yeah. It
and
was
they
just,
kicked a field goal. That was surprising.
yeah,
Never seen
that
them
was
do
tough.
that.
Yeah.
You know,
Come on, Dan Quinn.
they had a coach named Riverboat Ron, and even he didn't gamble as nearly as much as they do now.
Right. Yeah.
I think it's important to note that like that was the first real defense that they played. That was
Yeah.
that
that's a
was the
good point.
Duke and Loyola Chicago game.
Right. Yeah.
Like the Bucks defense, middle of the road at best, at very best. They ranked near the bottom in a lot of metrics regarding the pass, especially.
Right.
I'll put it that way. And you know, Detroit, it was
They were banged up. They
it
were
was an
banged up.
11-man practice squad out there
Yeah.
on defense at this point in the year. You know, Carlton Davis has a broken jaw.
Yeah.
Their entire defensive line's hurt. They have no linebackers. It's a miracle that Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator, was able to keep that game close.
Yeah.
It should have been a blowout.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a game that makes you wonder if Saquon Barkley should get the MVP this season.
Oh, I don't know about that.
If it were to go to a running back any year, what does he have to do? 2,000 yards?
Right. No, I feel you. I feel
He's
you.
carried his team. I would say in terms of value to a team, he's got to be up there.
Oh, I don't know because
I get it. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen having great season, both
Right.
of them, like all-time unforgettable years.
Yeah.
But when's the next time we're going to see a running back come anywhere close?
Unfortunately,
Bucky Irving.
Bucky Irving.
Okay,
That's
I'll take
right.
it.
That's
I'll
right.
take it.
That's what's up and stuff.
Unironically, I agree.
Yeah, unironically. No, I do feel you. Like I struggle with this because in my heart, I'm like, oh man, it would be so cool if a running back finally like won an MVP in the 21st century. Like it would. I don't know if that's happened before, but it's felt like forever since a running back has won an MVP.
I believe it was Adrian Peterson, and then before that it was Sean Alexander in the early.
That's right.
aughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a different time. You know, it's a
Yeah.
different league, unfortunately. And you know, running backs just aren't as important as they used to be. Like I don't want to make that sound rude because the Eagles don't make it this far without Saquon Barkley.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that they also wouldn't have made it this far without with a running back like that's slightly below Saquon.
That's also true. That offensive line is
It's so good. It's the best in
6
football.
rushing toucdownns as a team.
Yeah, like their offensive line is really good, and I don't mean that to take credit away from Saquon Barkley and what he's done. It just depends on what your definition of the award is. Like, is it truly just the player who had the best season, or is it truly the player who's the most valuable to their team? Because I mean, you see it with Miami every year when Tua goes down and they have to bring in a backup, and then they like go 0-8 or whatever. Quarterback's just unfortunately the most important position. And I wish it was more interesting because it's diversity, variety would be way more interesting. But the way it's set up right now, with the way the league is set up, with the way the award is kind of phrased, I don't know that you can give it to Saquon. I'd love to see Saquon get it. And if he does, I will be super happy. Like, that'll be awesome.
I'll be content with a Super Bowl MVP for this year.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
that.
if he has a great game in the Super Bowl, he can win it, and that would be awesome. That would be a great sort of secondary prize. But I don't know, Musab, do you feel differently? I mean, maybe you're more like Tyler. Maybe you think Saquon deserves the MVP. What are your thoughts on the MVP race?
I'm all for kind of changing it up for sure.
Yeah,
but it's just, for me, it's just hard to kind of, just, put Lamar Jackson in the back burner.
Right.
Fine with Josh Allen. I mean, Josh Allen, yeah,
Are we going to let Lamar Jackson have more MVP trophies than playoff wins? Are we going to do that?
Yes, because Lamar Jackson's a really good quarterback.
Some guys just it ends up being like that. I remember, my favorite NBA player, Steve Nash. He got 2 MVPs but never won an NBA championship. So
absolutely,
it just happens sometimes. Yeah, he came close. So hey, Lamar came close.
Right,
that's true. That's
true.
He
did. Oh man, it is tough. It's a really tough conversation to have, especially if you're talking to an Eagles fan, because they'll get a little emotional.
Why would you ever do that to yourself?
Right, that's a good point. Why would I talk to an Eagles fan?
Oh.
No, we've had some lovely Eagles fans on the show. Julian and his father Carlos are great, and we'll hopefully have them back for the draft this year. But no, I do feel you. Like it would be really fun if Saquon won, but it's just if you're actually voting, like if you're truthful to the meaning of what MVP is, like what the most valuable player, then it's probably not Saquon. I hate to say it that way, because it does look like he's carried them to some victories this season. Like he has literally like put the team on his back and all those cliches. So it's tough to dismiss that because they're the best team or they're one of the best teams in football. But at the same time, you just have to realize like DeAndre Swift ran for over 1,000 yards last year behind this offensive line. And like DeAndre Swift has struggled with the Bears this year. He has not been nearly that good.
That's quite the offensive line downgrade.
Yes.
The other point I'll make about this game is how often do you see a team drop 50 in a championship game?
Yeah,
in a conference championship game. Shoot,
that's a good point.
It honestly it makes me a little sad because the Bucs absolutely could have done that to the Commanders in the playoffs. They couldn't hold on to the ball. They couldn't maintain possessions. They couldn't get stops on 3rd and 4th down. So obviously I'm gonna trot out the victory by distributive property or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
I'm gonna take it. The Bucs absolutely are winning a Super Bowl this year. Whether the Eagles win it or if the Chiefs win it, because then I'll tell you that we took them to overtime in Arrowhead with no Mike Evans and no Chris Godwin. So
yeah, absolutely.
I'll take it. I'll be obnoxious that way.
There you go. Absolutely. Hey, what better way to be obnoxious than to create an agenda that's probably not
Oh, I'm full of agendas.
Oh, absolutely. Agenda ball. We love it.
You can get that little like UCF banner that they got when they won the national championship.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we can make one like that.
That's right. Go Bulls. Forget the night. But, right. No, I feel you. It would be it's kind of fun to think about like, well, the Bucs were really competitive with both of these teams, and here they are. They're in the Super Bowl. But who had in your mind? I know we brought up Saquon, but Jalen Hurts also looked really good. And the Eagles defense had a really impressive performance. They did a really nice job containing the Commanders. And Kansas City. I mean, I don't like them as much as the next guy, but unfortunately they did their thing. They did their thing. And Josh Allen also kind of did his thing. Obviously, he struggled a little bit here and there, but who had the most impressive performance from this past weekend in your mind, Musab? Was it someone from the NFC game or AFC game, or maybe it was a position group? What are your thoughts on the most impressive performance from this past weekend?
Yeah, I gotta go with the NFC game for sure. Just the Eagles all around. I'll probably say more their defense and sprinkling Saquon for again just balling out as usual. That AFC game was just heartbreaking the way it ended, of course. Gosh, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's tough to see Josh Allen. He's got the blitz coming right at him, and then he just like runs around a bunch and then chucks it up, and it's somehow in the hands of someone, and then Kincaid just drops it, and it's like, oh, that's the guy that they spent a first
right
round
there,
right
there.
Yep.
The victory is right there.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like there's a lot of kind of exhausting discourse because this. I don't know if y'all follow Benjamin Solak, I think his name is, but there was the dots and Khalil Shakur, I believe his name is. I don't remember the wide receiver, but they motioned him out and he was open, and it would have been a first down if Josh Allen had thrown it to him. But like, it's easy to say that from an armchair quarterback, but like he's got three just like grown men just sprinting at him full speed. Like
not just grown men. It's Chris Jones, and it's that other edge rusher. I forget his name.
Oh, is it the George
Karlaftis? That's what it is.
Yeah, Karlaftis. That's right. You've got just monsters bearing down on you, and like it was basically just like a free blitz for Kansas City. I get what Benjamin Solak is trying to do because, like, it's important to go back and look at plays and look at film and all that. But at the same time, like, hey, big dog, like, let's maybe slow our roll here. But Tyler, who was the most impressive performance from this past weekend in your mind, other than the weird Benjamin Solak discourse from on Twitter?
I'm gonna go a little outside the box. I'm gonna say both of the defensive coordinators on the winning teams.
Ooh, okay. I like it.
I think that obviously I think we're looking at the two best defenses in the NFL at the current moment.
Yep.
They both have some issues in certain spots, but frankly, it seems like a crime that Steve Spagnuolo is still a coordinator and not an offensive or not a head coach somewhere.
Yeah.
How do we as a league allow that to happen?
Right.
And Vic Fangio, why does he not have a job? What are we
Yeah.
doing?
No head coaching interviews for Vic. Yeah. I don't know.
That's crazy to me. Maybe he just didn't accept him because he wants a ring.
Sure. Yeah.
Fangio had a great defense in Miami just a couple short years ago, and this season, I would say that both of these defenses played their best games this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think that going into it, this is going to be a really low scoring game. Obviously, Kansas City didn't score 30 points until this past game against the Bills, when they literally needed it.
Yeah.
So they haven't had to score, which is that's not a position you want to be put in when you have Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
And so I'm also impressed by the Eagles' defense containing Jaden Daniels. I don't know that anybody this season really has except for them. Almost all of his turnovers came against them this year in the 3 games that they played.
Yeah.
I just shout out to Spags, shout out to Fangs.
Oh yeah.
Defense wins championships.
That's right.
Honestly,
that's right.
It's never been more true. They were the 2 best defenses when they played last time. So here we are again.
Yeah.
Well.
Indeed. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, the 2 best defenses, arguably the 2 best defensive coordinators in the NFL, just ridiculous stuff. Brian Flores is up there as well. The Vikings did a great job with their defense, but yeah, Kansas City and Philly, my goodness, they're really tough to go up against.
Juggernauts.
Because Spags just is so creative with his blitz packages, and Fangio has turned Zach Bond into an all-pro linebacker somehow, which who knows how that happened.
How did that happen?
Yeah, Nolan Smith
What are we
is
doing?
turned into like a quality edge rusher. I'm hoping for a second-year bounce back for Chris Braswell for Bucs fans. I'm hoping for a Nolan Smith type of just like, hey, here's how you play football, like kind of thing.
Honestly,
in year 2.
The most impressive thing about the Eagles' defense this year, they managed to put 2 white defensive backs on the field, and it's not it's not a liability.
Yeah, Cooper DeJean and Reed Blankenship, they're going out there.
What's happening, man?
Yeah, doing their thing.
What happened?
Yeah,
to the game
really,
I love?
really interesting stuff going on with Philly.
It's all about that DEI, Tyler.
Oh, yikes! Yeah, no, I feel you. It's what they've done with DeJean in the slot, especially because DeJean's turned into like a huge weapon in that role. So that's been really impressive to watch. So yeah, I'm with you. The 2 defensive coordinators, give some love to them. But we're nearing the end of our episode. Really appreciate y'all for tuning in. Thank you to Tyler for hopping on. We'll definitely have him back soon. And if you want to hear more of Tyler's stuff or read more of his stuff and listen to our shenanigans, of course, definitely give us a follow or give us a like and subscribe. That's at RBLR Bucks or at RBLR Sports. We've got some fantastic content across the channel. We really appreciate y'all for tuning in again, and we'll be back next week. It probably won't be as eventful. There won't be as much news, but we're going to start getting into some draft stuff. We'll start talking about the Super Bowl, of course, next week because, that's coming up the following weekend. So definitely stay tuned for that. We really appreciate y'all, and till next time, as always, go Bucks.
Go Bucks.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.